It's just after midnight at a packed movie theatre in Aurora, Colorado. The long-awaited Dark Knight Rises premiere has everyone buzzing. Families, couples, comic fans, all gathered for a night of fun. But in the front row sits a young man with dyed orange hair, silently watching the opening scenes. 20 minutes in, he stands up, exits through the emergency door and disappears into the night. Moments later, he returns, dressed head to toe in tactical armour, gas mask on, weapons in hand. The first thing people see is a flash of smoke, then gunfire. Within seconds, a joyful night becomes a scene of chaos and terror. That man is James Holmes, and this is the story of how one brilliant, quiet boy from sunny San Diego became the face of one of the most haunting mass shootings in modern US history. James Egan Holmes was born on December the 13th, 1987, into what looked like the perfect life in San Diego, California, a city of beaches, sunshine, and endless opportunity. His father, Robert, was a mathematician and scientist with degrees from Stanford and Berkeley. His mother, Arlene, was a registered nurse. Growing up in the Oak Hills community, James had every advantage: a stable home, good schools, and parents who deeply valued education. From a young age, his intelligence stood out. He built websites before he turned 12, tinkered with electronics, and amazed teachers with how quickly he understood complex topics. He was shy, sure, but not withdrawn. Teachers described him as sweet, quiet, but incredibly smart. He had friends, a loving sister, and seemed set for a bright future. But by the time puberty hit, something inside James began to crack. As a teenager, James began seeing things that weren't there, what he called nail ghosts, hammering in the walls. He told his parents about flashes of fire, explosions, and burning buildings. For a boy his age, it was terrifying. His parents tried to help, but both came from scientific medical backgrounds. They focused on practical steps, not feelings. Therapy wasn't something they really talked about. When the family moved to Rancho Peñasquitos, James lost what little social comfort he had. The local kids didn't welcome him, and he retreated into his room, finding escape in video games, especially Warcraft 3. His mother even went door to door asking neighbours if their kids would hang out with him, but nobody really connected with James. By high school, his isolation was complete. He was bright and athletic, tall, lean, and even ran cross-country, but emotionally he was detached. His coach once said that James couldn't even stand close enough for team photos. He graduated with honours in 2006 and seemed ready for college life. But whatever darkness had started in him never really went away. Studied neuroscience. He was brilliant, but socially he was almost invisible. Co-workers from his summer job described him as staring at walls for minutes at a time. He wasn't cruel or rude, just completely withdrawn. Still, he managed to graduate in 2010 and went on to pursue a PhD in neuroscience at the University of Colorado in Aurora. There he rented a small one-bedroom apartment and tried to build a life again. He even signed up for dating sites, desperate for connection after years of isolation. To his surprise, in 2011 he met a girl from his biology class. She was intrigued by his intelligence and dry humour. They started dating, watching Saturday Night Live, going to Ethiopian restaurants, sharing Slurpees from the corner store. For a while, it almost looked normal. But his strange behaviour, flat jokes, awkward silence, made the relationship difficult. They broke up by early 2012. That breakup would become a major turning point. After the relationship ended, James sought help from the campus psychiatrist, Dr. Lynn Fenton. Over 3 months, he visited her 7 times. He told her about seeing shadows with guns whenever he closed his eyes. He spoke of violent imagery without any trace of emotion. He admitted to thinking about mass killings, even having vague plans to carry one out. Dr. Fenton was alarmed, but legally her hands were tied. Since James never mentioned specific victims or a set plan, she couldn't break confidentiality or call police. Behind the scenes, his grades were plummeting. The university was preparing to expel him, but he dropped out before they could act. Alone, unemployed, and mentally unravelling, James stopped taking his medication and spent his days locked in his apartment. And that's when his mind shifted from fantasy to planning. By late May 2012, James Holmes began preparing for something terrible. He bought 3 firearms, a Glock pistol, a Remington 870 shotgun, and a Smith & Wesson M and P15 assault rifle. Over the next few weeks, he ordered thousands of rounds of ammunition, body armour, gas canisters and tear gas grenades. He kept a notebook, a disturbing manifesto, filled with writings about life, death and his own madness. In it, he called himself a uniquely mad mind and wrote, "Life's fallback solution to all problems is death." He listed mental illnesses he believed he had: schizophrenia, dysphoric mania, anxiety, narcissism, psychosis. His thoughts swung between guilt, rage, and hopelessness. In July, he mailed the notebook to Dr. Fenton, his former psychiatrist, but it never reached her. It sat undelivered in the campus mailroom. If it had arrived in time, this story might have ended differently. On July 20th, 2012, James Holmes drove to the Century 16 movie theatre in Aurora for the midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. He bought a ticket, sat in the front row, and watched the previews like everyone else. 20 minutes into the film, he slipped out the side exit and propped the door open with a table wedge. Outside, he changed into full tactical gear: gas mask, helmet, ballistic vest and gloves. Then, with techno music blaring through his headphones, he returned through the exit and tossed a tear gas grenade into the theatre. Panic erupted. As the smoke filled the room, James opened fire, first with the shotgun, then with the assault rifle. 76 shots later, 12 people were dead and 70 others wounded. Outside, chaos consumed the parking lot. Police arrived within 90 seconds, and amidst the confusion, James quietly walked back to his car and surrendered. He told officers he'd booby-trapped his apartment with bombs and gasoline canisters, and he had. It took a robot team to disarm them. James Holmes was charged with 24 counts of first-degree murder, 140 counts of attempted murder, and one for illegal possession of explosives. His defense claimed insanity. Prosecutors argued sanity, pointing to his months of careful planning. During trial, his infamous notebook was presented as evidence. It showed that Holmes had considered other attack sites, an airport, a mall, before choosing a theatre. He wrote about fear turning to hatred and titled one page, "A Dark Knight Rises." In August 2015, after a long and emotional trial, the jury found James Holmes guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to 12 consecutive life sentences, plus over 3,300 years in prison, without parole. He's now serving that sentence at USP Allenwood in Pennsylvania. A memorial now stands in Aurora, honouring the 12 lives lost that night: Jonathan Blunk, Jesse Childress, Jessica Garvey, John Larimer, Veronica Sullivan, Alexander Boyk, Gordon Cowden, Matthew McQuinn, Michaela Medic, Alex Sullivan, Alex Tevez, and Rebecca Wingo. The Aurora shooting reignited debates about gun control and mental health laws, and it still echoes today. This case is one of the hardest to sit through, not just for the loss of life, but because it shows the cracks in the system. Dr. Fenton saw the danger, but legally, she couldn't act. It's a tragic reminder that sometimes we recognise the monster before it acts, but by the time the system catches up, it's already too late.